Greetings, friends. Today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine as of November 29th, 2024. Before we begin, I sincerely ask you to subscribe to the channel. Your subscription helps the channel grow. Thank you to everyone who has already subscribed. A tremendous number of events occurred today, so let's get started. We'll begin with a massive missile strike. Over the past 24 hours, the Russian Federation carried out a massive missile attack on western Ukraine. Before your eyes is a map showing the main flight paths of both cruise and ballistic missiles, including Caliber missiles and Shahed drones. Note that nearly all the arrows end in western Ukraine, from where most of the objective control footage is coming. These are primarily recordings of Ukrainian air defense operations. Interesting footage from the city of Rivne has also been published, showing Ukrainian air defense in action. It appears they managed to shoot down another cruise missile, but parts of the missile seemingly struck an energy infrastructure target, causing an explosion and detonations. Notice the two-story building to the right, where the lights immediately go out. According to official Ukrainian sources, today's strikes primarily targeted the country's energy infrastructure, and it appears these will not be the last. Reports indicate that the Russian Federation has accumulated a massive number of missiles over the past few months, and is capable of carrying out almost daily strikes on Ukrainian territory through the end of December, with such attacks likely to continue. The massive missile strike was also commented on by the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin. He addressed not only the missile strikes, but also many other crucial points worth highlighting. Among the most significant statements, the Russian president reminded NATO about Russia's warnings regarding the use of long-range missiles against its territory. He also stated, Russia has begun serial production of the Oreshnik hypersonic complexes, which have no global analogues, and production is ramping up. Overnight, Russia struck Ukrainian targets with 90 missiles and over 100 drones in response to recent ATAK-MS missile attacks. The Russian Federation produces 10 times more missiles than all NATO countries combined. In the case of massive use of the Oreshnik, the strike's power would rival nuclear weapons. Decision-making centers in Kiev could become targets for the Oreshnik. There are no global analogues to Russia's Oreshnik, and none are expected soon, Putin declared. He noted that Russia was compelled to use the Oreshnik in response to Ukraine's actions. This raises an important question. Will there come a time when the Russian Federation employs the Oreshnik, the Kinjal, or other weapon types against Western countries? Over the past few days, we have repeatedly heard the Russian president assert that Russia reserves the right to strike military targets in countries involved in attacks deep into Russian territory using long-range missiles. This question is critical and could define not only the conflict in Ukraine, but also the global geopolitical landscape. Interestingly, Western military experts recently published an article suggesting a possible answer. They argue that Russia has not yet attacked Western countries like the United Kingdom or France, which supply Ukraine with cruise missiles for strikes deep into Russian territory, because it is focused on the final stage of developing the Sarmat missile. While we've seen the Sarmat missile in action before, Putin claims that the Oreshnik has entered full-scale production and is refined from start to finish. The Sarmat, with a maximum range of 18,000 kilometers, is still in development. Western experts speculate that once Russia perfects this missile and begins its mass production, ensuring it can respond to any target worldwide, it may extend strikes beyond Ukraine to include Western nations without fearing retaliation. If we consider the current situation, a hypothetical Russian strike with the Oreshnik against the UK, which supplies missiles for attacks on Russian territory, could potentially trigger a nuclear Third World War. Likely, the strikes would be mutual between Europe and Russia. As for systems capable of reaching the United States, they may exist, but the likelihood is high that modern US air defense systems could intercept them. Thus, the Sarmat would act as a guarantee that something could reach the US, making its development crucial. At the moment, according to open-source information, the Russian Federation is making every effort to accelerate the completion of the Sarmat missile system. Incidentally, in Western classification, this weapon is named Satan, a designation used by Western military analysts. Now, let us move to the front line and start with the southern Donetsk direction. Here, the armed forces of the Russian Federation continue offensive operations. For the first time since the onset of combat around Velika Novosilka, there has been no news from this direction over the past 24 hours. This is a highly intriguing situation, with a few possible explanations. Either the front line has largely stabilized, potentially due to Ukrainian reinforcements, or the Russian army has paused and is awaiting further developments. Moving to the Uspenivka fortified area, active combat continues around 3 villages: Romanivka, Ilinka, and Yelizavetivka. Despite most mapping services, including pro-Russian and neutral ones, marking all 3 villages as under Russian control, no definitive evidence of objective control has been provided. We continue to see footage of artillery strikes, FPV drone operations, and armored troop deployments in these settlements. For example, newly released footage from the past day shows several Russian columns entering Ilinka, deploying troops, and then safely returning to base. Based on this footage, the northwestern part of Ilinka has been marked under Russian control, but the central area remains contested, with Ukrainian forces apparently still present. A similarly interesting situation is unfolding in Kurakhove. For 3 days now, maps have shown no changes in the town's central area. Recall that a few days ago, videos of Russian storming actions were released near Pobedy Street, specifically showing troop deployments near a group of 5-story buildings. At present, this is where the fiercest fighting is taking place. The footage suggests that Russian forces have indeed inserted troops into central Kurakhove and are attempting to hold Pobedy Street as regular units advance from east to west. Today, additional footage was released showing a Ukrainian counterattack. Ukrainian armored vehicles arrived near a building that had been marked under Russian control just the day before. Ukrainian troops disembarked, secured positions, and began clearing the area. Thus, it remains challenging to determine the actual situation in Kurakhove. It appears that the town's central part is either in a grey zone or contested territory, with neither side in confident control. Current maps from various cartographic services likely do not reflect the ground reality. Further north, toward Berestki, the 114th Motorized Infantry Brigade released footage yesterday showing Russian forces advancing through the settlement. The video included not only the troops' movements, but also combat operations clearing the area. North of the Kurakhove Reservoir, numerous defensive positions were observed, many well fortified. The footage also revealed Ukrainian forces conducting clearing operations. In the final scenes, a Russian soldier is seen raising the 114th Brigade's flag at a specific location, confirming control over the area. This flag-raising event, along with geotagged visuals, has been used to update maps marking the area from Berestki to the settlement of Oreshnik under Russian control. Some neutral cartographers have noted that Russian forces managed to secure another tree line between Novoselidivka and Berestki. This means that, at present, there are no settlements remaining between the Russian army and the village of Stary Turny. The Russian army is likely to begin offensive actions north of the Kurakhove direction soon, which could lead to a collapse of Ukrainian defenses and the formation of at least an operational encirclement. Moving to the Selidov direction, a fascinating report was published by the Institute for the Study of War, which is affiliated with the CIA. According to their analysis, the Russian army is indeed planning an offensive into the Dnipropetrovsk region in the near future. The primary goal of this operation would be to bypass Ukrainian fortified areas, particularly around Pokrovsk. The objective is to encircle Pokrovsk from the flank by advancing into the Dnipropetrovsk region, cutting the settlement off from its main supply lines. This analytical report has been widely circulated in Western media today. Currently, the Russian army continues to encircle a small pocket between the settlements of Dachinska, Zelenaya, Novi Trud, and Shevchenko. In the Lysivka area, footage from Ukrainian drones has been published, showing mortar strikes on Russian assault troops advancing near the Saloninka Gully. Based on this footage, maps have been updated to reflect changes around Kurakhove Street in the village of Zhovta. Today, additional footage was released showing close combat between Russian and Ukrainian forces. Ukrainian units counterattacked Russian positions within Zhovta. However, Russian soldiers used an RPG to strike a Ukrainian tank from behind. This footage confirms the presence of Russian troops in Zhovta, leading to the map being updated in favor of the Russian Federation. Previously, the area was marked as contested territory. According to pro-Ukrainian and neutral cartographers, Russian forces have continued advancing along the railway from Petrovka toward Shevchenko. It appears that a pincer movement is forming, likely to converge near Novi Trud and Shevchenko. This operation is currently a priority for the Russian Federation, as achieving this objective would enable them to approach Pokrovsk from the south and place the town under fire control. Moving to the Donetsk direction, there has been extensive footage of FPV drone operations over the past 24 hours. However, there are no reports of Russian ground advancements. Some cartographic services have made adjustments to their maps, but these changes align with earlier reports. From Chasiv Yar, reports suggest that Russian units have secured control over the industrial complex in the town's central area. Although there has been no geolocation data to confirm this, it is worth noting for future updates. In the Kupiansk direction, objective control footage shows further Russian advances south of Terny. Currently, massed artillery strikes are being carried out on the southernmost part of this area, and it is likely that the armed forces of Ukraine will soon be forced to retreat entirely from the settlement. It's important to note that over the past month, November, the Russian army has significantly disrupted Ukrainian logistics in the Lyman area. This has led to heavy losses for the armed forces of Ukraine, weakening their defenses and making them less stable. Turning to Vovchansk, fighting continues for control of the Vovchansk citadel. For now, the front line here remains stable, and the situation is unclear. In the Kursk direction, footage from the past 24 hours shows Iskander missile strikes on HIMARS launchers in the Sumy region. Reconnaissance activities identified 2 HIMARS systems, which were hit with a dual strike from Iskander missile systems. Both Western-made systems were reportedly destroyed. As for the Sudzha salient, cartographic services report that Russian units regained full control over the village of Nizhny Klin during the past day. Ukrainian sources also confirm Russian control over the village of Darina. The Russian army is currently regrouping, preparing for an offensive on Sverdlikova after reinforcing and resupplying. Once Sverdlikova falls, the pace of the Russian advance is expected to accelerate, with gradual progress toward the southwestern part of Sudzha. That's all for now, dear friends.